Hi guys, I'm so sorry I've been MIA. If you have not been following me, I'm Blahgergirl, and I've been going over the Idaho 4 American Tragedy book about 5 chapters at a time. Now, if you have not seen the previous parts, please go down below and watch those so you can catch up and follow along. I'm going to continue this. I know it's been about 6 days since I posted last. I've been super busy. I am taking some time off this week, so I was bombarded with work right before I was leaving, so now I am free to be able to continue reading this book and get us through it. If you have not bought it already and have not been reading it, then please follow along, give that like and a comment, and make sure that you get that notification for my next video. So where we kind of left off, chapter 18 was a big chapter. It basically talked about the timeline that they believe how things happened the night of the murders. Now, chapter 19 starts off basically a decade before the murders and talking about Brian's upbringing and stories about him. He's from the Poconos in Pennsylvania. They're like dense woods and kind of in the middle of nowhere, and they talk about how he was basically over at a friend's house, and it mentions a Mark Bayless, a former Navy SEAL, who's the father of his friends, and that he precisely bought this like remote house because he likes how it is so remote for his kids to be able to play outside, etc. But it says that he cannot catch the person who is repeatedly stealing his knives, his coins, his prescription pills, his girlfriend's jewelry, and it maddens him. So he starts to assume that it's got to be one of his friends who's stealing these things. It states, Bayless talks to his son Jack and his nephew Brandon about the thefts. He says he's going to catch the thief if they try again and shoot him. Jack tells the third kid, whose name is Brian, obviously Bryan Kohberger, that his dad is pissed. Brian tells Jack he reveres his father, which I found that very interesting language, reveres. I don't see a teenager using that kind of language. And that's what he says, or at least that he puts it in text. So basically they're insinuating that Brian was the one stealing all the time. It just appeared to be a chapter where they're like setting the scene that Brian is already exhibiting behaviors that he's later accused of and appears to be true. So it was just kind of a weird chapter in my opinion. Now chapter 20 starts in Brodheadsville, Pennsylvania, fall of 2012. It talks about this gym being owned by Jesse Harris, and that Michael Kohberger, who's Brian's dad, brings Brian in, that Brian wants to kind of lose weight, that Brian's dad is a bit of a talker, and that he basically owns his own HVAC business and works for the Pleasant Valley School District. Jesse says he can help Brian. He tells Brian he could use the gym daily for as long as he wants. The other guys in the gym look at the fat kid and roll their eyes. They're giving up on him already. He'll never fit in, they're thinking. I don't know how do they know what they're thinking? And then Jesse wonders if they are right. He too isn't sure about this kid. The next day the kid appears. Jesse's regulars ignore the kid as he gets to work, and that he's 180 pounds overweight. Jesse shows Brian the gloves, and the kid is surprisingly coming back every day. Brian had trouble in school. He's been bullied. Doesn't like their new house. His friend Jeremy was a bad influence, and they've had to separate them. He spends 2 or 3 hours at the gym every day, and it's almost as if he's got nothing else to do, Jesse thinks. The regulars start to acknowledge him. Hey, Brian, he's one of them for now. What does that mean, for now? Chapter 21 starts with Effort, Pennsylvania in April 2013. Casey Arnst gets a text from Bryan Kohberger. She likes Brian. Brian has had his ups and downs with her younger brother Tom, who says Brian likes to get physical for no reason. Brandon Andriola says Brian has a temper. So it's one of Tom's friends. So I guess one of her brother's friends. Yeah, one of her brother's friends. There's also the fact that Brian hangs out with Jeremy Saba, who's Casey thinks he's a DICK, and Saba is known to be a junkie these days. She says he may not say much, but Brian has always been sweet to her. He's salacious in texts. I'm curious what she meant by that. But he always asks how she is. Most recently, he's been asking about her work at the glitter manufacturer. Interesting. And tonight he's texting Casey because he needs a favor. Has to get to his cousin's house near Luna Rosa, which is a restaurant in Brodesville. He pops in and out of the restaurant then asks if she can swing by CVS quickly because he needs to buy needles for his aunt. A few days later, he remembers to text her happy birthday. When she next sees Brian, he tells her it's common knowledge that Brian gets heroin at Luna Rosa. Most likely she was carrying heroin in her car and she's been pulled over. She could have been arrested. Now Casey is mad. On May 21st at 7:49 p.m., she sends Brian a Facebook message. I would like to hand you a big congratulations for lying to me about driving you around. I should have added up beforehand, but thought I was doing something nice for someone. So thank you. If you would have gotten caught, I would have gotten in trouble for just driving you around not knowing why. Needles for your aunt. Wow, really great story. Bye. Full day later at 8:33, Brian responds, I'm in rehab. I know that, Casey writes back. She receives no reply. Early 2014, Brian tells her to be proud that she's making something of her life. And he says, I'm not, haha. Casey wishes that she could be nicer to him, that they all could have been nicer to him. He seems to be struggling. And then it's like, why weren't they? On March 27, 2014, a year after the car ride to Luna Rosa, he sends a text to her saying, you know, I love you guys, always will, even if we stop talking one day. What is Brian talking about? What does it mean? And they weren't talking to him. It says they weren't talking to him. What do you think it means? That was my note for that chapter. So they said it's in chapter 22. It's the Indian Mountain Lake, Pennsylvania, 2014. Michael makes a call he doesn't want to. Says that his son is a threat to the family. Brian can't stop using. He can't stop stealing. He's taken Melissa's cell phone and sold it. He dials 911. Police arrive. Read Brian his rights and cuff him. He'll go again to rehab. Brian lets his true feelings out on Tapatalk and SoundCloud, recording, writing, and posting an original rap song made from other sufferers of visual snow. So that's what Kaylee's sister was referring to when she says, you think you were trying to do an unsuccessful career as a rapper. Now we know what she meant. So it says the rage, loneliness just pours out of him. So here's the lyrics to the rap. Always the same thing that disrupts my life. Wonder when I'll change. I guess when the time is right. Procrastinating my deranged to change would be a fight. So I'm a pacifist. Like I'm afraid to get a bloody fist. Look at this. My mind is pissed and I'm keep running. Why is this when I hit it always leaves them stunning? I'm stuck in the future, but I'm never looking at the effing present. Keep it up. Act like you're all that. Leave your loved ones crying like some seagulls. You are not my equal, you are evil, but this is unintelligible people, evil devil. Now I'm going regal, don't F with us, hope you learned your lesson. So that's the rap that she's referring to. So chapter 23 starts the Indian Mountain Lake, Pennsylvania, August of 2016. Brian sits in the basement, he's out of drugs, cash, friends. Jeremy Saba has been arrested on a DUI, possession of drugs. Would Brian come visit Jeremy right after? So I guess Brian says he's going to go visit Jeremy in the prison to Connie, his mom. And so when he finds out that they go to visit Jeremy, he breaks into their house apparently, and from the door of the garage that's been forced open, and then her iPad is gone. It said, will she call the police? She said that Jeremy said Brian is manipulative. She thinks about Brian's mom, Mary Ann, when she goes to call the police, and the fact that he has Asperger's syndrome diagnosis and later the drugs. She puts the phone away without calling. But it was interesting because I thought the Asperger's that he was evaluated later, but it's showing that they already knew that he had this, if that's the case. So why wasn't it mentioned earlier in the trial period? So basically, Brian just pops in 2018 into Connie's kitchen, and I think he's there to make amends after rehab. He came to atone to make amends. He started a psychology degree at Northampton Community College. He's lonely. He misses Jeremy. He doesn't say any of that. He doesn't get the chance. After he's done apologizing, Connie thanks him, and then with as much kindness as she can muster, Connie asks Brian to leave and never come back. He doesn't do drugs anymore, but somehow she senses that he's still a threat to their family. That's such a random thing to say, so I don't know why they keep insinuating things throughout the entire book instead of just stating the facts. But that's where we're at, chapter 24. I'm going to stop and make sure you come back and comment for future videos.